Welcome to Command Shift Left, the podcast that helps you navigate the treacherous waters of the software development, ops, and security world while also diving into the hot current trends in the industry. Join myself, developer Philip, our co-host or Vice.
Hey audience!
As we battle through hilarious real-world stories, pro tips and hacks for navigating your way around developer security, learning about our Shift Left life, and life stories that have saved our ass. I am absolutely thrilled to have two amazing guests with us today. We've got Steve and Baruch. Why don't you guys give a short introduction about yourself? Steve, let's start with you.
Okay, let's hope you can hear and see me sufficiently. My name is Steve Jaguar. I'm a developer advocate for formerly the startup called Bridge Crew, now Prisma Cloud by Palo Alto Networks. Work primarily in the security domain, have done for quite some time. So my fact will be about security.
Awesome.
And Baruch?
And I'm Baruch Sadogurski, former principal developer advocate in JFrog, now at large, thinking about what to do with my life next. So yeah, my rants will be about what to do with life next.
We like to hear that. It's an absolute pleasure to have both of you guys today. We're going to have 4 facts today for you guys, and in no order. Maybe let's start with you, Steve, again, and hear your fact for today.
Hey, my fun fact. Is it fun? It's initially controversial.
We'll see.
Potentially controversial. My fun fact is that traditional application security is dead. People are saying this.
Okay, what does that actually mean? That it's dead, and if it's dead, what's replacing it?
Right. Oh, you fell into my trap.
right into the honeypot.
It's not scripted at all.
No. Some of my formative years was spent in very AppSec, anything that is called AST. So SAST, IAST, DAST. We got really hot on 4-letter acronyms about application security testing.
Uh-huh.
And I had a moment of clarity when I moved heavily into the cloud that none of this works. And then, but people are really plugging away at it. And then, I'd say in 2022, I felt like there was a new groundswell of movement where people are realizing that we need to rethink how we're going to do this. Companies are spending a lot of money on tools that just really do nothing except create security theater and vulnerabilities and lists, and maybe even compliance, but not to any real security effect.
Security theater is my favorite kind of theater, right after Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And when I go to an airport or when I go into any concert hall, going through security, that's the most fun part. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, you need to add to that there is a local flavor, which is the Israeli security theater, which takes the security theater to 11.
They're the best.
Yeah. So for sure.
But when you say security theater in like modern applications, what do you mean? And I'm trying to get what do you expect it will have instead?
What I'm hoping we have instead, there's a lot of, I don't know, let's say, dare I say the word marketing around,
Sure.
the enemy, around just bringing the word context, because applications are so complex, and if we're looking at something like a microservice that has decoupled and reusable components to your application, trying to figure out what's going from a static analysis perspective is nearly pointless. You can rack up a ton of tool fatigue, automation fatigue, integration fatigue. Everything can be terrible, but not to throw blame at security teams, but I might a little bit. I isolated AppSec teams from isolated InfoSec teams from isolated is creating part of the problem, where they're satisfying their requirement for demonstrating the detection of vulnerabilities, but really not creating anything that is actionable.
So maybe what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is that AppSec needs to go through its DevOps moment.
You got it.
Where
It's almost like
where
we
we
had a term for it, something with DevOps and security in one.
What is that anyway? Yeah. That, yes, I referred to DevSecOps, and that's as the security writing their own invitation to the DevOps party. Like DevOps didn't actually invite them.
they get invited, but they have to sit at the back and no one talks to them.
At the kids' table. And they're like,
Don't show them any pull requests.
No.
Or maybe they just come for the food.
Yeah, like a lot of people at the meetup I run who just show up with a pizza.
Security was always part of DevOps. It's just poor naming. Generally, we're terrible with naming things. Software engineers. What could you expect? So security was always part of DevOps, and was always intended to be part of DevOps. And the thing with DevSecOps, it's just a marketing trick to make people be more aware of security.
I don't know if it makes people more aware. To me, the DevSecOps, AppSec, whatever, the many acronyms that we use about dev, they just all start becoming confusing to me as soon as you start introducing more than 3. And then especially the people who are just familiar with it or just getting to know it, that's really confusing for them.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, if we're having an internal argument at the moment about what is the difference between AppSec and DevSecOps, and it's like, well, that is the problem I'm trying to point out. I think there's a lot of confusion, and I think what the messaging that comes from organizations like OWASP, which is awesome, OWASP is great, and the work they do is phenomenal. But sometimes OWASP itself comes across as being AppSec, and I would love to see OWASP expand that a little bit, getting out of what I think they're a pretty old organization now, relatively, in our industry, and it would be interesting to see a bit of change, I think, within that. So security becomes more integrated as opposed to isolated.
I want to play a bit of devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
So as a developer now, I'm not only expected to be full stack, I need to know backend and frontend well. I need to do my own ops, obviously, because otherwise I won't ever get my crap deployed. And now you say I also need to do my own security. That's quite a bit of a bunch of stuff that I need to learn in a short amount of time. And I also need to actually finish my code and deliver it. And I'm also now competing with an AI that generates code.
And your code has to also work. That's the important part, because you don't want to deliver an unusable code. That just disqualifies you totally from the game.
So what's the advice we can give developers that now you say, okay, you should also understand security? How can they tackle the challenge?
Oh, okay. Maybe this is my second controversial. My message would be: there's no way you can get developers to do anything.
Just give up.
Largely give up and focus on more like the CI/CD area. Look at automation to bring security into play, and use the tools they already use, so that they encounter security, but they're not necessarily responsible for it, and they learn from it. So they get drip fed their own lessons, so that the lessons become their own idea.
Mm-hmm.
But to try and mandate or tell them, or you can casually say you should know security, but then just walk away, because
just lie.
You can't control whether they're going to do it.
I know security, but
your life will be easier if you do security. That is all.
Okay, so you think we should delegate more of this into our infrastructure, into the tools we use, into how we build the applications themselves, as opposed to try and rebake this into every product or into every company. Is that a fair summary?
I think the culture of security has to come top down. That's one of the few things, but that's a culture thing. That's not a tool mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Security has to be
welcome to DevOps. Then nothing can be solved with tools.
Right. Yeah, but I think the implementation through automation is good, but there can't be new. There can't be another dashboard. There can't be another, whatever is being used now, try and find a way of using that to.
Yeah, so essentially implementing the tools that we already have to execute something faster, trust the team that developed the tool, that they know what they're doing, and move actually forward with the value of the product.
Yeah. I mean, a developer spends all their time in, let's just pick one, like VS Code or JFrog. Let's say the VS Code. right? If you can't use VS Code to convey your message about security, then forget it.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to go to your dashboard with a unique login. They're not going to go here and look at your whenever. They're not going to care.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's a great fact for the people listening to kind of take away, to focus on the tools that we have. And now I'd like to kind of jump on the second fact. And I think it was you, Or, that wanted to take that one away. So I'll let you share the fact with us.
My fact for this episode is that JavaScript used to be called LiveScript. And they renamed it just following the success of Java as kind of a marketing ploy.
Everything is marketing.
And literally, the guy that wrote the thing as part of the Mozilla project literally called this a scam. They're like, and they and like Mark Horowitz, Andreessen wanted to kind of make this grow. They saw that Java is doing well, and just like they copied the name off of there. And I think for those of us that don't know, maybe for some reason, if you're living under a rock, you don't know Java and JavaScript. So just to kind of keep an order of that in your mind. So Java to JavaScript is the same as ham is to hamster.
I love that. It's quite an interesting comparison. But I mean, if people did it now, if people adopted that kind of phrasing now, surely they would literally, it's like stabbing themselves in the toe. There isn't many Java fans. Or I mean, there is a lot of Java fans out there.
You were
let me
talking
not get
about
this.
the 90s, right? It's late 90s, early 2000s. The internet was still just kind of maturing. It's actually the early 90s.
Okay.
But this has a rippling effect. Like JavaScript is probably the most common utilized language today as part of Node.js, as part of browsers, as part of IoT devices. And still, it has this technical debt. It has this concept embedded into it, and it's on all of our tongues as we reference it. And I think it's interesting to see how these little things, these little butterfly effects, change our entire world out of basically small marketing or small notions. And I'm kind of it makes me think of how, in general, marketing affects us as developers. Also, maybe kind of connecting to the previous fact. As we're thinking about security, as we're thinking about DevOps, these are ideas that are being marketed to us. How does that change the way we work? How does that change the way we build software? How does that change our professions and how we think of ourselves as developers?
Look at those kids trying to recall when Java and the internet was invented. That's very adorable of you kids.
Sorry, Grandpa.
I don't think any of you were even born in like 1995 when Java was invented. But
I wasn't.
Hold on there. Hold on. I was there, man. I was there.
No, I'm talking about Felix and Or. So there was.
I'm actually older than I look, but I'll leave it there.
Sure. First of all, it's like adding .ai to everything today and adding .io to everything 5 years ago and adding .js to everything. So it's obviously all marketing. The interesting question is, do we think it would make a difference if it was LiveScript? Frankly, I love good marketing, obviously, and I think marketing have huge impact on everything we do. This particular example, I'm not sure. The success of JavaScript has, in my opinion, very little to do with the fact that it has Java in its name.
You need to remember, but you need to go back to those days. So at that time, Internet Explorer just came out, and that dominated space. And that, while it supported JavaScript, it came with VBScript as the default language, and that could have been the language that dominated the internet today.
Except people hated VB.
I mean,
I actually wrote as a kid. I wrote most of my code in VBScript, and also in Visual Basic itself. And I was kind of annoyed when like JavaScript kind of took over, and I had to learn JavaScript instead of VBScript, and which I was kind of very familiar with. I think it was on the scales, on the edge. It could have ended very differently. We could all have been in a .NET ASP
Oh no.
The world today.
Oh,
That
I
nightmare.
mean, I
Please,
guess
no.
that's a positive
Yeah.
outcome for it. I was like,
Here we
I
go.
was super confused when it came out because I was writing in Java, and then I thought, this is great. Some kind of fast version of this has nothing to do with it. What is going on? Like, I'm learning something different. This doesn't make any sense. But my example was I went to it because it sounded intriguing. Like I wanted to jump from one to the other, and I thought it was going to be easy, and it wasn't.
Okay, here we go. So it does work.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Java before you started learning JavaScript?
At the time, I hated Java because it was really early.
So why did you feel excited about moving?
Such a hipster.
Because when you write script,
He hated Java before it was cool.
I hated Java way before it was cool. Because script made it sound easier.
Okay, interesting. I actually think the name LiveScript makes much more sense.
Oh yeah. I mean,
There was also a point that it was called Mocha, an internal name that they didn't release.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
that wouldn't have been bad.
I wonder why Mocha though.
I guess it's another play on Java because Java is coffee and Mocha is
Yeah.
coffee with chocolate.
Wasn't that the story with Java, that someone was drinking a coffee which was the strain of Java, and then that's how they came up with the name? Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was working on his workstation and he just had to pick a name and he saw a mug of coffee and like, okay, let's call it that.
Interesting. Yeah.
There are so many versions why it's called Java. I guess none of them is true, but marketing. Speaking about marketing,
There it is. If you,
You know,
once you have a
Yeah.
name, you come up with a good story behind it. See JFrog.
yeah.
what's the story behind the JFrog's name?
The official or the truth?
Let's do both and compare.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I don't think there is an official version which is different from the truth. But back when we all worked in a consultancy company in Israel called Alpha CSP, we had a bunch of open source projects that we did for our customers, mostly in like build space. There was no CI/CD back then. It was just like build, migrating them from terrible scripts and Ant and all this kind of stuff. I'm talking very oldish language, I know. And it was all Java, so yeah. But we wanted to have an umbrella name for all those open source projects, and we just started to think about a cool name that has like J in the name, because Java JBoss was very popular.
Oh, interesting.
So
Oh.
everything that starts with J was kind of a good thing. And then we thought about, okay, we cute animal will be nice, like Tomcat or what's not, right? It's all,
Have you seen frogs?
it's all like very, very old references for people to understand. And JFrog, the domain was available, Twitter handle was
Of course it
available. And someone came up with a very cute frog on top of that. So this is JFrog.
Who at JFrog thought that the frog is cute?
Frogs are cute. Did you see our frogs? Come on, now you insult me. as
Your
well.
frogs go through Photoshop before.
Yes, I do like what JFrog is doing with their marketing now. I really liked the new T-shirts that you guys released with the Matrix style frog. The designer drew it. That was really cool.
That was the last T-shirt that I was a part of. So yeah,
That's cool.
now it's all downhill from there.
I think something that works for JFrog is that their imagery stands out. First of all, picking the color green and having an animal that is not picked by everyone. It's like birds are a dime a dozen, and so
Yeah.
are all the
Butterflies.
Yeah, butterflies and cats and dogs are also very, very common. But you don't see a lot of frogs. And when you do see a frog, it's like, okay,
It's
that's
true.
a brave choice. Maybe that's a brave company. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my my
It's
take
so
on it.
associated with JFrog now that no company would dare take on Frog as an image now. You've got it. You've owned it.
It's actually now works the other way around. You go to a pond and you see real frogs and you're looking like for the jar files and like
Oh, wow.
In the early days when we didn't have money, we used the stock imagery, and there is a very popular forest frog, with the red eyes
yeah.
that stand and like three the paws with three fingers, and it's a very popular stock image, and we use that as well. And once like JFrog things start really going, we see that other companies that used to use it much less. One of them is a famous Israeli car rental company that used to use it and then stopped. And we attribute it to ourselves that they stopped using it.
Interesting.
That's kind of cool. Like you dominate the space.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, considering you're already speaking, Baruch, I kind of would love to jump on to hearing your fact, because I know you have an interesting one.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Turing Test. Right, you remember Alan Turing came up with the test how to determine if artificial intelligence is intelligent enough and can be compared to humans. And the idea was that if a machine can fool a human to believe that they are humans, it means that their artificial intelligence is on par. I think the problem is that Alan Turing lived the pre-internet world. He had no idea how stupid humans can be. And I bet that a lot of people fail Turing test right now. And fail to convince other humans that they are intelligent enough. Once the machine can convince other humans that they are human, they pass the Turing test. Right? So
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, the fascinating thing is that we suddenly moved from the world in which artificial intelligence that passes Turing test was the realm of sci-fi to a world that it's like almost normal. Of course, we have ChatGPT. The first artificial intelligence that considered successfully passing Turing test was a chatbot last year in 2022. And it was a couple of months ago. And that was, for me, one of the most significant events in our lifetime. And just a couple of months later, everybody take ChatGPT for granted, like it was nothing special. And that's really mind-boggling. I mean, people complain how stupid it is, that it doesn't, like, it's not precise in the code that it's right, or in the answers to very complicated questions, and how they manage to fool it. Come on, people. It's artificial intelligence that passes Turing test like this. It's amazing. It's like we're in the future of every sci-fi movie, and we take it for granted. That reminds me of a joke. Someone walks in a park and sees a man playing chess with their dog.
Yep.
And they were like, whoa, your dog is so smart? And the man says, come on, what do you mean smart? I win 4 games for versus 2. That's exactly that, right? I mean, considering that dog is not smart because it loses in chess, that's exactly how we now conceive ChatGPT. And I think it's amazing how people actually fail to appreciate the tremendous shift that happened in our lifetimes.
I think we need to redesign what the Turing test is, because if I apply the Turing test to a self-driving car, right, I can't see who's in the car, and this car is driving absolutely perfectly, as opposed to a car that's driving down a straight road with a blinker left on, not doing anything with it. That's definitely a human. That I'm convinced.
Exactly.
This perfect car, it's driving way too well to be a human.
It creates new ironies now in how we both perceive ourselves as humans and how we kind of perceive our software. And a lot of things that we've kind of gotten used to, like our CAPTCHAs, we use those to prove that you're a human, but I don't know, sometimes I struggle with them. Sometimes they can be very confusing, and I'm starting to think that the current AI models can really speed through them a lot quicker than I can, and I think we'll be at some point where, as maybe Baruch kind of maybe hinting at, the machines will tell us that we're not good enough, we're not passing the tests, and we shouldn't be allowed to do things. Another thing I find interesting here, Baruch, is it feels like you're kind of doubling down on the grandpa theme today. It's like Back in my day, I had to write my own chatbot, and it couldn't do anything.
Exactly. It has bunch of if else, and you didn't guess the phrase that it expected, is just root tons of Java exceptions. You don't know what it is. It's fine. Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, I'm living in those past months since GPT kind of became available in absolute shock and awe, because this is really something that my life didn't prepare me for. Artificial intelligence that can do stuff that it can do. And from now, it's going to speed up even more. And frankly, I think that no generation lived through what we are going to live through with the artificial intelligence developments that are upon us.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we saw kind of ChatGPT come to the market, the first thought that I had in my head was, what are all these students at university going to do that study computer science? I mean, I'm not that old, but I remember being and trying, struggling through some questions that maybe I was given to do as an assignment. But now they'll just be able to take the question, put the code in, and get the answer straight away. So how are they going to place restrictions on that? The thing I think we mostly see with AI is maybe not how much correctness they can bring, but how much efficiency they can kind of offer us. And I saw an article on Hacker News today where a guy used a combination of ChatGPT and Midjourney to write a children's book, do all the drawings and write all the text. And for someone previously, it had to be hours upon hours to get everything done. And this guy mentioned that was literally in a matter of a few hours that he was able to reproduce that. It's not maybe relatable to the tech world, but it just shows how much possibilities and speed up of the tasks of our daily tasks we can actually get from it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
My life as developer advocate completely changed. The combo of ChatGPT and Midjourney or DALL-E or something like that makes a preparation of content completely different. I had to come up with some very abstract illustrations. Speaking back to DevSecOps and what's not, I had to do an illustration that for a hero of a new DevOps conference website, what do you put there? So, but the designer came up with obviously an HTML piece of code, as they usually do when they type programming into whatever illustration banks they used. And I told them it's wrong on so many levels. So they're like, okay, you do it. And I'm like, oh, shit. But then, actually, ChatGPT came up with a prompt that made sense for Midjourney, and boom, in
so you generated a prompt for Midjourney with ChatGPT. So you're lazy twice.
Wow.
But it's not lazy. It's utilizing the tools that I've been given from the universe in the last 6 months to make my life absolutely unbelievable. Hell yeah.
Amazing.
I'd love to just very quickly touch on what you think about generating documentation with ChatGPT, because documentation is a big part of a developer advocate role. But what do you think of actually utilizing that tool to generate something that's quite technical and needs to be accurate?
I think it's going to be, if it's not, it's going to be better than we humans can generate technical and accurate documentation, because we suck. I mean, almost everything will be better. It's a very low bar.
Recently had to do a top 10 or top 11, something weird, Kubernetes security issues, and asked ChatGPT what it thought they were. And actually we asked it in several different ways, and going back to what you said, Philip, it came back with the same answers, like slightly reworded. So I thought, if all your students ask ChatGPT, you actually might pick up on the fact that they all asked it, because the answer comes back the same.
Okay.
Like exactly the same.
Okay.
It's not that creative in how it rewords itself.
Right.
But it was wrong.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's information. It was a garbage in, garbage out scenario where it was quoting things that were slightly out of date, because our world moves so fast.
Yeah,
okay.
Because it is.
Of course.
Give it a little time.
But
Yeah.
come on, Steve. I mean, it's your dog lost a game of chess.
Yeah, it is.
And
Exactly.
it was close. It was close.
There you go. But it was awesome though, because all I had to do was change a few things and I was done.
Exactly.
Like just I modernized it in 5 minutes. We're good to go.
Exactly.
I think we're just starting to see where this new revolution is unfolding onto. I think we've already seen some revolutions in our lifetimes, at least some of us, Philip. We've seen the computing revolution, we've seen the internet unfold, changing our lives dramatically. We've seen the mobile revolution unfold, and now we're seeing a new revolution with AI. And I think something that's interesting here is that the interim time between each of those revolutions and the time that it takes to propagate into our lives is getting far shorter. And I feel like with ChatGPT, like comparing it to the previous revolution, we're now at the point where the iPhone was just unveiled, but some of us are still playing with iPods.
That's it.
But now iPhone is out, and it's like a few. We're like in a couple of minutes from now, it's like everyone's going to be using mobile phones, or in this case, AI is going to be embedded into everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think let's give it a couple of minutes, and it's going to probably change our lives dramatically. I think just in this conversation, I think we touch on how many different ways of using it, even in using it recursively. I think that's a very interesting thing you brought up, Baus. I think that recursion and that embedding aspect into our lives is going to change us in a way that we won't recognize. Like our kids, I'm imagining that our kids won't be able to imagine things without using an AI agent. Like, oh, I'm going to do brainstorming. I'm going to imagine something. Oh, I probably need to bring the AI into the conversation. It's going to be something that people will be dependent on, if we like it or not, I guess.
Almost sounds a little scary, but I guess that's what the future will essentially hold, right? Because it's going to be something normal for the future generation. For us, it's all exciting, but they're just going to be, it's the normal daily thing that they will do.
I think also like having all the knowledge of mankind available in your pocket, that can also sound scary. But like it turned out okay. Like it made a lot of people into douchebags, but otherwise we're doing fine, I think, for now.
Yeah. Well.
I think we're kind of running a little low on time, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the last fact with you guys. The fact I have prepared. My fact is that we're actually able to weigh the whole of the internet, even though you might think it's not possible. And it was estimated to weigh around 2 ounces. Now, the whole story goes back a few years ago when there was a famous physician. He was called Russell Seitz. And essentially, he asked himself the question, well, how much does the internet weigh? What he meant by that is he was trying to count the amount of atoms that get passed between, how data gets transferred. So as an example, the typical email that maybe you might send to your friend, telling him how much you love him and all that. So that email in itself actually weighs around 8 billion electrons, which if you put it into a number that maybe we might understand, it's 0.2 of a thousandth of a quadrillionth of an ounce, which I don't know how much that is in grams, and I'm not even going to bother translating it for our European audience. But how insane is that? And I mean, it's trying to take something that we didn't ever apply value to and actually get some result which is much, much smaller than we ever imagined. So the whole vast internet and how big we picture it, like you said, or it's essentially having the whole internet, that all the knowledge in the world just available to us. It just weighs so little that you can barely measure it.
Yeah. I think it's also like if you try and boil things down into their weights, it's like I can do the same to you. Like, so you're let's say you're an average human, so your brain weighs about a kilogram and a half, or 3.3 pounds. And that's like the sum of all of who you are, Philip. And that holds 2.5 petabytes, which is like 2.5 gigabytes of potential information. Some people use more of it, some people less.
From what you said, are you saying that I have a limited capacity of memory that I can hold? That's
yes. As you get old, Philip, and I can tell you this now, you start to feel it.
Oh no.
So I think in general, it's amazing to see how our technology has progressed. And I think it also kind of connects to our previous fact. We've made things more interconnected. We've made things smaller. And we've made them more efficient. And all of these things have kind of a cascading effect between one another. So the more we add to the internet, the less we need to carry in our minds. So for example, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really bad with math. I was like okay with math, but as I started using more and more computers, like doing simple arithmetic is not as easy as it used to be for me. And I'm imagining that for children in the future, like why would I even know how to like add numbers? I have like this device here that tells me, and it's a lot faster than I'll ever be. So there's pros and cons. I think we're getting more augmented, but we're also getting more distributed. Not just our technology and our microservices, but also we as people.
Yeah, you can offload now more and more functionality to machines, and one would say it makes you lazy and stupid, but I would say it just makes more space in the brains, whatever neurons and grams available for other stuff. Now, you don't need to remember how to do complex arithmetic operations, but you can remember something else instead.
Complex is like 5 plus 2, right? Because I forgot that one.
Yeah, no.
That's crazy. So what's going to happen in 50 years with pub quiz nights?
In 50 years, I'd say even before, I'm betting like we're getting AI embedded into our software. I'd say the next stage is getting AI embedded into us.
Yep.
And you'll just, you'll think about, by the way, that's how math works in general. So you have your system 2, like what you perceive as yourself. You're thinking, okay, what's 5 plus 2? And you have another microservice in your system 1 that picks that up and delivers the answer into your mind. So that's like a microservice that you train, a model that you train on your own. In the future, there will be a model that you acquire from some company, and it does those calculations a lot faster, and you don't actually have to teach it. And it does probably do other things. You'll probably be able to stream ads as part of that also. Like, okay, what's 5 plus 2? And like, first, a word from our sponsor.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
Oh no, I don't want.
The thing is, you just pay for it, and you pay for it because now you earn a lot of money because you have all those upgrades that allow you to do your job better than the others.
So do you think in the future we'll be able to buy upgrades for ourselves to make us better at something?
I have no doubt.
The Matrix.
I have
Oh
no
wow,
doubt.
that's. I don't know how I feel about that. It's an interesting thing.
I
Usually
feel
it's
great about
no one's asking you or us or anyone. It's just
You can just embrace it or don't. Doesn't really matter.
No, I'll embrace it. I think it's cool. I think it's definitely the future. It's just something we're definitely not familiar with. It sounds a bit out of science fiction, but it's definitely something that we probably could expect, like you're saying, in the future.
science fiction is becoming science fact and faster and faster. I think some of these improvements will also be about what you store in your mind. So we kind of covered in one of the following points. So the fact is that there's a limit to how much you can store in your mind. So now you can offload that into I don't know, an S3 bucket in Amazon. But those also have kind of there's also a darker angle to that. Like you get your Amazon bill and you're like, oh, it's all of this storage. It's very expensive. Do I really need to remember grandma? I don't really need numbers of grandma. Why? Let's remove those. It will save a couple bucks.
So here we come to another topic, and that's that incentives generate behavior. And when it comes to pricing, you need to be very sure that the correlation between your values and your vision and your mission do not conflict with the incentives that you generate.
Mm-hmm.
So if your product is about storing everything, you cannot really penalize people by storing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a marketing problem and pricing and product problem rather than a technology problem. And we came here full circle to marketing again.
Yeah. So we should call it Java memory or something
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness.
And so it would be more popular as a product.
Memory.js becomes memory.io becomes memory.ai.
Yes, that sounds like a plausible idea.
Steve, where do you think like the security aspects kind of come in this dystopia, utopia mix that we're kind of imagining here?
Oh yeah, AI is going to take over. I'll be out of work. That's the short answer to that.
And on that note, it's
I think that's an interesting point. So, because if you have now an AI filling the CISO role, but also an AI filling the hacker role, like the arms race there, like the arms race around cybersecurity and cyber warfare today is already kind of scary. And it's a whole topic of its own. But like if now it's sped up, just like these AIs just trying to hack each other all the time, that is also kind of be, I'll call it interesting. Because we've said frightening enough times, I think, for one episode.
Marketing by fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
yeah, everyone listening to the podcast will just come out scared. What's going to happen with my future? What have I listened to? Why have I listened to this?
Enjoy it while you can.
Yes, enjoy it while you can. And on that note, I think it's a perfect time to kind of wrap this podcast up. I appreciate both of you guys, Steve and Baruch, for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure having you guys.
Tell them how terrible it is, and they should never watch it. Marketing.
I think this is the perfect time to wrap up the show. If you liked this podcast, tell your friends about it. If you didn't like it, tell your enemies about it.